to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Total protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal with your host, Conan Neutron. Broadcasting from a secret underground lair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A gigantic middle finger to everything that is rock about music, rock and roll, and corporate power.
The thing is, though, if you don't laugh, you're going to go on a killing spree with sharpened nails.
Confidence of a hero or a fool. I wasn't exactly certain which.
Could not be more professional.
It means something. It means something.
You know, that's my take on it. Like, what's yours?
Protonic Reversal!
That's like a science thing, right?
Indeed it is. It is a science thing. It's a science place. It's a scientific fact that we're all up in your face. It's time once again for the one, the only Protonic Reversal. Welcome to it. Episode 409 here. Very shortly, I'm going to be talking to two fellas that I've had on a lot over the years, both together and alone. And they're embarking on a new endeavor. Really looking forward to that. I'm really interested in it. How interested? Interested enough to do, I don't know, do you call it an emergency response, Protonic Reversal? Whatever. Not the day we normally do this. So before I have Mr. Travis Keller and Joe Cardamone on, welcome to Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. I am your host, Conan Neutron. I'm a rock and roll lifer. This has been touring and recording for 24 years, most known for the band Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends. Music is a huge part of my life, and I use the format of this very long-running podcast to talk about music with musicians whose work I enjoy and respect, but who may not be household names. This is episode 409. If this is your first time listening to the show, archives are available for free. No ads, no sponsors, no kidding, at protonicreversal.com. However, if you want to support the show and get episodes sooner, $1 a month at patreon.com/protonicreversal will achieve that goal. If you like the show or even just a single episode, please feel free to like, subscribe on your platform of choice, share it around on the internet, and even leave a review. All that helps people discover the show, beats back the almighty algorithmic overlords, and it's just a darn nice thing to do. So there you go. Travis Keller, Joe. They're doing a Buddyhead movie. This is going to jump right to the chase here. I'm excited. I've had both these fellows on a lot over the years. I mean, this show is well into the 11th year at this point. I've had both these guys on plenty of times. They're wildly creative, good talkers, and always up to something interesting is how I characterize it. So without any further ado, Travis Keller, Joe Cardamone, welcome to the show, fellas.
Yeah. What's up?
I can tell it's earlier where you're at because it's like muted enthusiasm. Oh, yeah. Hey, what's up? I'd say I appreciate you making the time, but I appreciate myself making the time too. We all made the time.
Yeah.
Little flags to wave for everybody.
Thanks for making the time. Is it snowing over there?
It isn't, but it's cold AF
right
now. And it did snow the other day, and it was a fucking drag. So I came home from tour with like a post-tour cold, which not uncommon, right? But I was like, fuck, This is the last thing I feel like doing right now. God damn it. Not so much a problem where you're at.
It's chilly.
Yeah. It's probably it's LA chilly, which is to say, yeah, not
Get a little rain.
Exactly. That when I tell people here, because as you guys know, I'm from California. They're like, yeah, like California winter, unless you're in the mountains, is like, hey, there's some rain.
Yeah.
That's about it.
There was rain last night for the first time in like 8 months.
Yeah. They still have that iscaliforniaonfire.com website where it's just like yes or no?
Don't know. I don't know. But
do you ever see that? It's fucking awesome. It's just what you think it is. It's like, is California on fire? Yes? No.
It's like yes all the time.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. And then it'll have like, a link to like whatever's happening. But that's the kind of, so believe it or not, that ties into the topic. Get this is some real professional podcaster shit. Because that's the kind of thing that the internet used to be fun and not just a constant misery machine. And one of the things that reminds me of that kind of thing is Buddyhead. And not to bury the lead, there's going to be a Buddyhead movie that you guys are putting together, which I think is fantastic. And I think it's a time for it's past time probably for it to come, because a lot of the things that Buddyhead popularized are just things that are on social media now. But there was not an outlet for that. there wasn't like a device in your pocket that would allow anybody to become the media the way that they are now. I think it's super cool. There's a fundraiser for it. I guess tell me, this is a huge journey, man. Like tell me like what led you guys to do this? Was it the Icarus Line movie that sparked that originally, or was it just like independent of that?
I think it's we've always kind of had this plan like since I shot the footage like 25 years ago, or ish 25 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, a million years ago.
But like even on the footage, I'm telling everyone we're making a movie. You know,
Right.
It's just kind of now it's time, I guess. But yeah, I think the Icarus Line movie did inspire us to like, you know, kind of realize that we could make films and kind of tell stories that way. And I think we've been kind of cutting our chops ever since then, with just music videos and different projects.
Yeah, and I think that it's different now. Like I think of like the L7 documentary, right? They had like a camcorder and they would like run around in the 90s and doing that. And it's hard to overstate, especially for younger listeners, younger viewers, how that wasn't a thing that everybody could do. Like it wasn't like a resource that everybody had. Like even the first remember those first camera phones, like those flip phones where it was like, oh my God, it looks like, you know, freaking Blair Witch Project or something. Like what's happening here? Not good.
Not good at all.
So was it something where you always had the idea, hey, there's going to be a thing someday. You realized what was being documented.
I mean, I've kind of always just documented my life. I came from skateboarding where it was like you kind of had to film things to prove you landed tricks, you know? So I came from that world and making skateboard videos as a kid and like filming my friends and, you know, taking photos. Skateboarding kind of connected me to music and photography and filming, all that. So like, you know, and then when I moved to LA, instead of skateboarding, it just kind of became documenting what was around me, which was like the Icarus Line and the LA punk scene. And, you know, yeah, I thought it was pretty amazing. I thought everyone that I was like seeing every day was pretty sick. And that was like the reason I started carrying a camera everywhere. And yeah, just kind of like documenting it all. It felt like we were like in the midst of something special, and that's just kind of what I did anyway. So yeah, that was kind of the basis of it.
So yeah, you guys have both been friends of the show for years. You've been on many iterations, you know, when it was audio only for like many years, you know, talking on the phone like boomers, you know, like all that stuff. I don't actually know how you two met. Why don't you tell me how you met?
I mean, my high school band, Canker Sores, was on tour. We had conned our respective parents into letting us go on tour by ourselves in a van that we bought for $900 in front of like down the street from Aaron North's parents' house. We had found a van. We're like, there it is. Let's go. What's an oil check? But, you know, we just jumped in this thing. It was actually named the Shag because it was completely shag carpeted inside.
Fantastic.
And you know, I remember there was this huge debate whether we were allowed to go all the way to Denver or not, because I had booked the tour from like the Maximum Rock and Roll book. Book
Your Own Fucking Life. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's how dude, that was a necessity back in the day. Like there was no other way to do it, right? Yeah.
How else are you gonna fucking do it, you know? So I like booked it on my parents' phone, and they had like banned me from the phone after that tour when the bill came in. You know, long distance was like a fucking thing back then.
Yeah, it's like here's hundreds of dollars in long distance charges, which is another anachronistic thing, right? But true heads know.
Nuts. It was like $1,000 I spent booking the tour that would only lose thousands of dollars, right? And you know, there was this summit at one of our band members' houses about how you know, they didn't want us doing the treacherous Rocky Mountain driving on our own. So we were only allowed to go as far as fucking Idaho, pretty sure. I think that was like the furthest we could go. And we played a show at like a fucking coffee shop or something up there.
Travis, like a college, like hippie coffee shop.
Yeah.
And yeah, they were kind of terrible, but they had like a 7-inch out, and they were from LA, and they were on Recess Records, which at the time was one of my favorite labels.
Sure,
and
yeah.
I was just like, these guys are doing it, you know? So we traded addresses, and then when I moved to LA, I looked them up in the phone book, and called them and was like, hey, I live in LA, and they were like, where do you live? And I was like, Tarzana. And they're like, that's the valley. You don't live
That's not LA, yeah.
you know?
The harsh epiphany of people that come from somewhere else realizing that, yeah.
But yeah, I landed in the middle of like everything they were doing. Like I just started going to shows with them, and they were either like playing shows or like I think the first night I went was Joe was booking a show at the record store you worked at,
Probably,
Pasadena.
yeah.
And it was like Carp and At the Drive-In, and it was like Canker
Right,
Store.
yeah.
Yeah, it was like the first At the Drive-In LA show, I think.
Oh man, yeah, because first time I saw them was I think they were trying the Get Up Kids, if I remember right, and it was at the Makeout Room in SF, and my friend knew about them. We went to the show. There's like other than like me and like my 3 friends, there's like 7 people there.
Yeah,
total, right? And they were just like, whatever, freaking scissor kicks off of like the. Like they were playing, I was like, it was the MC5 or something. And I was like, I'm fucking on board for whatever this is. I'm on board for it.
Yeah, they were bonkers.
Also, the Get Up Kids had to follow that. I'm like, I wouldn't want to follow that.
I mean, this is even before the like Fearless record came out.
Oh, so this is real early on, because I think this is still like when In Casino Out just came out, maybe.
I actually
Acrobatic Tenement. I think it come out on whatever label.
Flipside.
So this is even earlier. Okay, cool.
I actually I was not to like flex, but I was like instrumental in signing to Fearless Records. I actually worked there at the time.
Oh, word. Okay.
And like all they had was like really like kind of weird pop punk bands or whatever. And I like harped on I lied and said I knew how to do graphic design, so they hired me as a graphic designer. I'd never opened Photoshop in my life,
and then booked tours on their phone.
Yeah, exactly. And then they charge the long distance. Yeah,
I knew the job, and but I had heard At the Drive-In and put on that show for them, and harped on the owner until he signed them, and that was the kickoff.
That was the move. By the way, last thing on the long distance thing, I used to work at Tower Records, and they had these phone cards they gave away in Rolling Stone.
Oh yeah.
That somebody didn't realize that you could just add them all to the same account. So I just gaffalated 200 of these and booked like 2 of the first 2 tours that I did in Replicated were all just booked off of those phone cards, which I think statute of limitations has now passed. But hey, what can I say?
For you.
we never had one, I don't think, but I remember Ink and Dagger when we were on tour with them. They had a dialer, and it would
like in Hackers, yeah.
And then it would be like $5, and then you'd call or whatever. I just thought that was so sick.
Super sick. But
older than us.
Yeah, I was gonna say no one in 25 or younger has any idea what we're talking about. By the way, at all, like what? What are you talking about? No, but Joe, I think it's important to tell that kind of stuff because for whatever reason. And I've actually struggled to understand this. The history of early 2000s music is just non-existent somehow.
Yeah, it's the underground. There's no coverage of the underground scene from 98 to 2006 or whatever. It's just this blank page because it's really before social media, and the internet from that era has just been swallowed alive or deleted.
Yep.
There's no YouTube. There's no, it's just this weird gap where traditional media was dying and new media was not really where it is today. So, there's just kind of a weird sort of chasm where there's so many kind of cool instrumental bands from the underground that are just lost, to sands of time. And, but it was a super vibrant community and, moment for independent music. And also, not to go on about it, but since things were not that connected, these scenes were super regional. And even though there was these shared sounds, it was really informed by a local take on it. Cause you have 4 or 5 records that maybe made their way into the scene, and then you're kind of mutating those for your own devices. And it was just interesting that way, instead of this collective consciousness that we have now where everyone can instantly sort of adhere to, artistic guidelines and trends immediately,
trending topics. No, well, you're right, because at the time we felt like it was getting balkanized, right? Like monoculture was starting to disappear, but it wasn't atomized like how it is now. Because now it's just, I mean, like, you know, a cat doing a trick has the same level of interest as like your new record does.
Way more.
You know, if not more. Yeah, exactly.
We're getting killed by the cats. Cats hugging and kissing. It's like we can't compete.
Yeah, how can you compete with that? But it's interesting because it is some. So all right, so I'm on a movie show too, and we had Adam McKay, the guy, you know, Big Short, Vice, Anchorman, all that. And
he did the Lakers show.
Oh yeah, I still have yet to see that, but yeah, absolutely.
Sick.
Awesome dude, and I mentioned how cool it was to hear Foreigner Blows in that one scene in Talladega Nights, and he's like, "Oh, you know who that is?" It's like, dude, we've toured with them. Yeah, I know who they are. Like, I mean, like that's my world, man. That was a huge deal for us. Like, oh my god, Foreigner Blows is in a movie. Holy crap!
Does he know who they are?
Or he's a huge fan. Like, he's a huge Foreigner Blows fan. But how would you know that? Right? How would you know that? Because that whole era of music has just been almost redacted from existence. And the one caveat is they made that one documentary, what's it called? With like yeahs and
in the bathroom.
Yeah, that's it. That I can think of. Can you guys think of anything else?
No, there's not much. There's the new Omar Cedric one that
sure, yeah,
just landed, but I haven't seen either of them. And the New York one is like kind of outside of our sphere, you know.
Yeah, it seemed like it was more focused on like the poppy side of things almost.
We were like club kids, you know, and they didn't film any other footage too. That's the difference too.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, again, not to yuck anyone's yum or like trash that kind of thing, but for me, Buddyhead was just right in the center of all of that.
Yeah.
And intrinsic to the experience of like stuff that y'all got up to around that time were like historic moments in music that, again, you know, like Tears in the Rain, lost the time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there was shit that was like on MTV News that, you know, we can't even get.
Which people are like, MTV did news, but yeah.
Yeah, right. And the archive like burnt down, you know, so
right.
You can't even get a hold of half of this shit, you know, because they don't have it, you know. I mean, this might be weird, but there's actually footage of me and R. Kelly high-fiving on Jimmy Kimmel, and I don't know how to find that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just, you know,
don't worry, when you get canceled, that'll come right out quickly. Don't worry, someone's got it somewhere.
So. It'll be the homepage.
Yeah, you'll finally get some publicity.
Yeah, totally. But you know, there's so much weird shit like that. You know, we were kind of just like in and out of all these bizarre, you know, situations that were completely unplanned, and yeah, it's kind of we've tried to document it as well as we can, and then the stuff that we weren't able to document, we're hoping to like animate some of those stories, you know, because
cool, all right, yeah,
because there's stuff that just like, you know, there was no camera at my house when My Chemical Romance came over to watch me smoke crack and take notes. You know what I mean? So,
right, yeah.
You know, there was no cameras that day, but you know, it's a good story. So, you know, there's things like this that like we can tell the story, but like, you know,
I stayed home that day.
Yeah. He was smoking crack at home, and I was smoking crack.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Everyone gets their own separate crack dens. Yeah,
totally. But you know, these are the stories kids need to know about.
Sure, and there's been a lot of that's been deployed well. I think the Sparks documentary I thought was real good about it did some cool stuff like that. That Mike Judge show about the country bands and then the funk bands, I thought that was like done super well.
Yeah, Montage of Heck has some moments, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So it can be done, and I'm thinking about this in terms of. I think you even said it in the pitch for the fundraiser, which I should mention. I'm putting that link in the show notes for everyone if they haven't already checked it out. The spirit of it is sort of, to me, I think of like 1991, the year punk broke.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the hallmark movie for me. That's the one I wore out that VHS copy being like, fuck, this is what I want to do. This is like, these are my people, and I'm so far away from all of it.
Well, it was like it really looked attainable because it didn't look that different from you and your friends.
Right.
Fucking off, but you know, at a festival, you know, so
yeah, because before that it was like Guns N' Roses or whatever that seemed larger than life, you know. It's like
totally,
it didn't seem like we could do that, but
it was
that was a Metallica one, not some kind of monster, but the one something or other.
The best
Cliff 'em
music.
all.
Some kind of monsters, absolutely incredible. But like that one where it's like Metallica, like after it was like Black Album, Metallica. I don't
Small,
know what it's
right?
called,
Oh,
but-
no.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. This
Like
is
it's cool, but they're very clearly these are like arena rock stars that are like doing arena rock star stuff. And again, like you said, when you see 1991 Year Punk Broke, it's like, oh, they're just like fucking around with the deli meats and stuff like that. They're doing all the same stuff that like any like punk rock kid or whatever, however you want to characterize it, would be doing. And it was in a pre-social media age, it was something for people to latch onto when you're not surrounded by people that share your values and interests. Right?
Yeah, and also the footage is super loose. You know, it's not manicured like all those other documentaries that came out were they were like had such an intent about them, and like the Year Punk Broke and maybe even Decline to a lesser extent.
Yeah. First one especially.
Yeah, or Cocksucker Blues. These are like these sort of like just free floating documents, and
Like there's someone from the side of the stage with a
yeah.
with a camera, and they're like, it's not perfectly framed, and they're kind of going, and it's, I said Blair Witch Project earlier, like almost like, it looks very much like you're the person that's there, and it's happening, and that's
they're home movies.
Totally.
They're fucking home movies.
That's exactly it.
That's what's cool about it is like you are there with them. It's not this sort of manipulated situation to make you bow down to the prowess of some fucking rock god. It's a home movie with a bunch of fucking losers who are the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and the same with that movie with where it was Dandy Warhol's and Brian Jonestown Massacre. What was that called?
Sure.
Yeah, same sort of thing. And passing interest in a lot of the music, but I thought that was a really honest documentary.
Yeah.
Where I was like,
it's honest for its intent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, who knows if any of that's real? But whatever
Doesn't
they're
matter.
there, I'm buying into it.
Right, exactly.
Well done. You know what I mean? It's just well done.
It made me forget how certain people in that documentary have been actual huge pricks to me personally. And I was like, oh yeah, that guy's a dick, but I like this movie.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
I've never listened to a fucking Brian Jonestown record. You know what I mean? But, again,
I will say nothing.
He blocks me on Twitter, so
my favorite is that
he doesn't
movie.
like me.
Yeah, he is who he is. I don't even care.
Yeah, but the movie's cool. I like some of the other people in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. No, some of the people that play in that band even are total sweethearts, but it's just like dysfunction junction.
It's still a great movie. It's a cool movie.
It's a cool movie, and it documents something like you probably haven't seen before, which I think is great. And so, okay, so we mentioned Decline, right? You mentioned Cocksucker Blues, we mentioned 1991 Year Punk Broke, but where the hell is that for the 2000s? There isn't one.
There's nothing.
And again, when I think of the 2000s, I think of what Buddyhead was doing. Icarus Line was a working band around that time and doing like all kinds of stuff as well. And having come up around that time, starting to play music, all that stuff is important. And there are bands that are just lost to time to this younger generation that just never, again, because they aren't on YouTube or whatever, right?
Well, also because like we kind of lost the war to like emo metal and all these things. So
rap metal and emo.
These are those were the forces we were kind of
to the point that people don't even realize there was a war, and there was a war.
Oh, there was
to be clear.
Yeah, there was definitely a war, but they had corporate America on their side, and we were really this was just guerrillas. You know what I mean? It was guerrilla warfare, and we did whatever we could to kind of expose what we thought to be kind of sort of surface level disingenuine music, or a scene that was kind of aping certain aspects of even our scene, but just on a very sort of superficial level, propped up by a very produced sort of pop sound,
Absolutely. And what's interesting now, and what I found still touring and doing it, is that a lot of younger bands, they not only have no frame of reference for it, like they've completely rehabilitated things like nu metal, right? And
My Chemical Romance is like the fucking Who to people who are like 25. It's like insane to me.
My buds in chat pile who are fantastic, doing everything right, staying very true to themselves, and have gotten a very good audience for it. Love the first Korn record. Love it.
Oh yeah, we know people.
And it's like, it doesn't change my feelings about their music, but like also people don't even realize that there was like a conflict or a war artistically. Like that Hot Snakes came around as a reaction to nu metal, right?
Sure.
Like there would be no Hot Snakes without nu metal, because John Reese is like, hey, F this.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna make something that's, has the aggression and like is not coming from this place. And there's plenty of examples of that, but there aren't, because it didn't make it into whatever. Yeah, it wasn't corporate approved, right?
I mean, there were certain chords that I just wouldn't even allow anyone to play in the band because of those genres. You know what I mean?
Word. No, I get it. Yeah.
Not allowed. Drop D, not allowed. Like, we don't touch any of those things. You know what I mean? Because it just seemed like a crutch for the weak or something.
It's like when Buzz was busting Mike Patton's balls for like, look what you created. Aren't you proud?
Yeah, it's funny how that happens, right?
Like, it's like them and Refused.
Yeah.
Yep.
In Rage Against the Machine, like every band they ever spawned is just garbage.
Oh, it's just trash from the trash can. Yeah, it's fucking horrible.
Thing, it's like these like seminal bands that influenced the worst bands of all time.
Yeah, yeah. No, and it's again, I try not. I don't want to be like the old guy shaking his cane at the clouds. You know what I mean? But like,
I do.
It's you can do it for all of us, my man.
The cane since we were young.
Yeah. Well, true. Actually, it's a brand proposition, pretty much, right? Yeah. But no, that story needs to be told, and it doesn't even need to be told. And like, look, here's the way to think about it. It's just that. Oh, by the way, it's not maybe what you think it was around that time, and the things that people fetishize are the things that are available to them. Sure. Things that and they're engaging with it without the context of what it came up with. Like Travis, I still remember you called Wes Borland a good Nazi at one point on an episode of this very show, like years ago.
I don't know that. What's up, Wes?
But it was but it was very funny, first of all, and it was in context, but it was meaning the fact that he was he's collaborating with something that was.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. I get it.
No, I mean,
yeah, he's a nice guy, but he's on the wrong team. Got you.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that was hilarious personally. But anytime anyone says something controversial on the show, I think it's hilarious, unless it's litigious, in which case, not so hilarious. But I think that's
nothing.
Then you'll
Kramer can't handle.
Yeah, right, exactly. But then I saw the TV glow. Fucking Fred Durst is in that movie acting.
Yeah.
And that's a great movie that's also about like trans identity and trans awareness and all these important things. It's like, then why is Fred Durst there? He's like the opposite of any of those things. But maybe he's trying to atone. I don't know. Maybe
Hollywood doesn't give a fuck. Hollywood's a microcosm of this entire country where it's just sort of like upper echelon giving each other reach arounds, and like, none of the stuff that they say they stand for do they really stand for. It's what they stand for is fucking making money and like helping out their other friends who are making money and trying to like close the drawbridge before anyone else jumps through. Why do you think there's no bands the size of whatever, the Foo Fighters or whatever the fuck, it's like doors closed.
Yep.
No,
you're not. You're not telling me anything I don't think about all the time, but yeah. For someone like myself, you just have to reconcile it with like, okay, I'm going to do this for the people that it's for, and I'm going to have to be okay with that, because that's, and if you don't do it, I guess. I don't know. There's no curative measure.
Oh, it doesn't matter. We've got Kendrick Lamar and fucking Kanye and shit. There's rock stars out there. They just don't hold guitars,
Yeah, well, exactly, and it's not. And people are like, oh, well, there's no good rock music being played. Man, there's plenty of good rock music being played out there. You just don't know about it. Sure. And Travis, I know your opinion about rock music, and I'm not interested in hearing it. But
I like rock music. I've come around since that.
Okay. All right, I was gonna say, you were kind of on a tear for a while.
There's tons of. There's just not a lot of like big rock bands. That's
Well, it's
Joe. Travis actually came out to our show with McCluskey in March. He was actually at a rock show. I was going to narc on him.
Where were you?
I remember.
Where were you?
I was busy that night.
Yeah, I was there. David, I was there. Most of Chapo Trap House was.
I think good. I had fun.
I think rock music has just kind of gone the way of jazz in a sense.
I agree.
Like, it's once something becomes such a sort of like formal genre, then like there's just these elements of traditionalism to them, you know, and it'll never be a zeitgeist. You know?
Yeah, this is a band that sounds like Refused and Fugazi. This is a band that sounds like Melvins. This is so ironically, some of my favorite rock bands going are like ones that are just I don't know, they're freaks. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And those still exist, but they're not big usually.
Yeah.
Usually. Tropical Fuckstorm maybe, but yeah.
Yeah, it has to be that way.
Even McCluskey, like I don't want to diss on them, but like I heard somebody describe Idols as woke McCluskey, and after I stopped laughing, I was like, okay, that's kind of good. That's kind of true.
I don't know.
I mean, those first two records of theirs, they pretty much owe Falco royalties. But But they're good, and they're also bringing in kids. They're bringing in kids to weird music. So, like, being mad at that is like, come on, you're gonna get mad at that?
If it actually does have a trickle down effect in educating people about like shellac or something,
sure, yeah.
For it, you know, does that actually happen? I don't fucking know. You know,
kind of, and in weird ways, like kids like Carp.
Yeah,
great, me too. But like, I don't know how. How'd you find it? It's not even on Spotify. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah,
it's gonna be a certain type of music fan that's gonna find it always.
Yeah, we were at a Halloween party with a bunch of youngsters in Orange County, and you know, we were informed by one of the kids there that there's a fucking screamo resurgence scene, you know, and the kid was talking about like fucking Antioch Arrow and
all these San Diego bands.
Yeah.
You know, and he was like 23, dude. So
man,
so it is out there, but you know, I think that like there's probably a few documentaries that need to be made, and we're just trying to like present our corner of the world, so that like at least there's like a flag in the moon. You know what I mean?
You absolutely. And so that ties back to what I wanted to talk about earlier. How do you decide what goes in it? So Travis, you shot a lot of footage. I imagine there's probably like Primal Scream stuff along with like Murder She Devils, and like, you know, I know your beat, right? Which
for sure.
But how do you decide what makes it in? I mean, there's a lot to process. There's a lot there.
You know, it's whatever tells the story, you know, and whatever is, you know, certain scenes are just going to make it in just because of the footage, you know.
Yeah, whatever has energy is like the thing, you know. Or
as we make it, it'll just be like, you know, it's going to be like jazz, dude. It's like we're going to figure it out as we go.
Yeah, whatever kind of puts you in the room. I mean, there's like this ephemeral quality to that time where it's like, okay, so like there's not really cell phones, there's flip phones, and there's a lot of you know, time to be bored and high in between moments of chaos. And I don't know exactly how that's going to happen within the confines of a film, but that's like been a guiding light of the project. Is like, we really do want to feel the time, you know, so there's no talking heads. There's no us sitting up in front of a camera being like, I remember when, like none of that. It's only footage.
Yeah. Dave Grohl won't be in it.
Yeah,
that's the
unless he sends our call and gives us some money.
Unless he calls, in which case he'll be in it. Yeah,
be the main character. Actually.
Yeah. For $250,000, we'll call it the story of Dave Grohl.
Dude, there's Eric from the Bismarck did a documentary about DIY touring called "Why Am I Doing This," which is great, by the way. And I'm full disclosure, I'm in it, right?
Nice.
But that's not why it's great. It's great because it's about like every band that ever has just eaten shit. Like just trying to like fucking make music and get out in front of the world. But his tagline was 100% Dave Grohl free, which I thought was hilarious. Which is, you know, because it's a reason why that's a joke. Let's put it that way.
And nothing against Dave, you know,
he's just in a lot of documentaries. That's all it is.
Many women want to have children with him. He's obviously a pimp, dude. You know what I'm saying? This guy obviously.
It's a good problem to have, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
So. But it's also like, what kind of story are you telling, right? Because you want to include the stuff that's, oh wow, I can't wait to see this footage from like this band that's like still relevant, right? Like bands that, you know, like Nick Cave or something that's like still working today, and there's interest in it. And there's also like, hey, remember this band that was like lost to history? No, well here they are. Yeah. And how do you square that circle without it being like a 10-episode like streaming series or something? You know what I mean? Like how do you?
Well, it might be at some point. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's the thing, is like we're not really. You know, we've talked about it evolving into multiple formats. We'd like to have a film version.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean the way things are today with digital distribution, it's like, why couldn't it expand at a certain point? You know, it's not a traditional film sense that like, okay, so there's a 2-hour cut, there's a 3-hour cut. All of a sudden, you know, there's a 4-hour cut, and that can become multiple episodes. I mean, it really would, whatever it becomes, I think has been sort of
The goal is to like take it
That's
to some
exciting.
goals as like a film first, and then if there's like interest and people care, we could do some episodes, and it could be in that type of format
and dig deeper. That's what Kevin Costner should have did.
There's so many
For
stories and so much footage and photos and just like our combined like experiences that, you know, we could keep doing this for a while.
You could keep it going. Do you know that?
That'll be the hard part. Is just like you said, like what does make it like
Right, because it's going to be tough choices.
putting it all down, you know.
totally.
Do you guys know what Horizon is?
Yeah.
By the way,
He like spent he blew his nut on it. I haven't
like,
seen-
and his idea is it's going to be a 4 or 5-part series of movies in the movie theater.
Yeah.
And he was going to, like, I think his original plan was going to introduce, you know, like, here's the first one, the second one comes out like 2 months later, and this and that, or whatever. And basically, he made Normie Deadwood, is what he made.
Yeah.
Right? And I saw the first one because I was like, look, I'm interested. This could be good.
Yeah, might as well see it.
Might as well see it. It's a huge flex. But spoiler alert, didn't work out so well. And there's argument whether he'll ever have more than just the first and second one release. So that's like kind of like the overreach part of it.
The Coppola movie's kind of like that.
Megalopolis, sure, of course, yeah.
But you know what? I still love the sentiment behind it. I love the fact
Fuck
that they're putting their fucking life on the line to do something they believe in. And, you know, if it doesn't work out artistically, well, sometimes it just doesn't. So
It's like being at the casino and like you push everything. All right, put it all on black.
totally. But they were like, put it all on magenta, and everyone's like, I don't know, dude. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. Because it's a thing of like, who did you think this was for, and what year did you think you were releasing this? Like kind of mentality, but also respect, because we got to have that aspect of dreaming to like, you never know, man. The craziest stuff has become so popular where it's like, really, that's the thing that's become popular. That's insane.
Like what?
Look at What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah. That show's awesome, though.
It show's fucking great, and it's based off a movie. Most people don't even know that.
The movie's not as good as the show.
Movie's not as good as the show. They found out what connected in the movie, and they did in the show, and they did better. And it has this crazy like ups, like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Same thing.
Yeah.
They've done like 40 seasons of that thing, and it's the most unlikely thing to ever be like a hit show because it's like filled with people. They're just, you know, it's the people being the worst all the time. You know, it's a show about dumb people for smart people, and somehow it works. Great.
Great.
How am I going to be mad at that?
I'm gonna get a water.
So, but yeah, like if you're talking about, so first of all, say you get it done, which we say, let's say you do. And then it's also, well, what happens after that? What happens after that? Where do you go with it? There's probably more than enough stuff in the archives, right, Travis?
Yeah, first I'm going to be doing a photo book, so I think that'll be kind of like the precursor to the movie because it's a lot of the same images.
Yeah.
And doing a photo book and kind of like my first official. I've done a few photo zines, but this will be like my first like kind of like
book form.
Yeah, like coffee table kind of archive and kind of explain what's going on. So that'll kind of start telling the story a little bit.
Well, and I always liked your photography, and I think it was very evocative at a time that, again, now everybody can just be a photographer with on Instagram with like their phone, right? And there's some people that do very good work in that, but that, again, of that era, there's even less. Like we were very lucky in Oakland that we had two just like amazing, what I understand now is like world-class photographers at these fucking punk rock noisy shows, like taking pictures. And there's archives of that now, which is crazy because I didn't realize how like rare that was. There's whole scenes where it's like, wow, there's no pictures of like this band. Oh yeah, they didn't have a photographer in that town, you know?
Right.
Which is crazy to think about now because you're like, what? Didn't have a photographer? Is this 1882? What are you talking about? Like,
yeah, but I mean, even you can see how like he starts with like, you know, analog photos, and over the course of the thing, it's like technology starts to take over, and all of a sudden it's turning into digital photos and analog photos, and yeah, it becomes more accessible as the film kind of unfold, or as the era unfolds.
Yeah.
It's a cool thing to see.
And you also have video that's, you know, like what I assume like mini DV or something, right? Like where it's like some some archival format that people, again, try to explain that to someone now. Like, what are you even talking about?
Yeah,
what is that?
we spent the whole pandemic like encoding it, putting it into a computer.
That's crazy. How long did that take?
Well, it's like 250 hours, so you had to do it in real time. So that plus all the rewinding, and you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was doing like 8 or 9 tapes a day. You know.
Yeah. Wow. When I'm sure some of that's like, you know, like this, like the Stevie Ray Vaughan guitar thing, stuff like that, like iconic moments. But then also there's probably got to be some chaff amongst that wheat too, I would imagine.
Yeah, there's a lot of people on the tapes that aren't with us, or we're just not friends with, or you know. At first it was a little heavy, but now I've seen it so much and kind of lived with it. They're kind of just like characters now, and I'm excited to like put it all together now.
Is there anything that kind of surprised you with that? Like just as, again, coming at it like years later and being like a different person, being older and having survived all of it and whatnot, just sort of like, oh, wow, didn't expect this to be interesting or something along those lines.
How high pitched your voice was.
Yeah. There's like a few years, like a young female.
There's some wild shit going on, dude. It's crazy. I mean, I think I remember all of us maybe being worse than we were too. I was like, I was braced for the worst. You know what I mean? It's just like, I don't want to hear myself talk. It just sounds so fucked. Or like, what am I saying? And then I realized, like, not so different from now. And it was like, oh shit, yep, still kind of the same.
Like, in a way, did you feel like you were like not as articulate, or just kind of like on one about something specific at that time, or what?
Probably, I thought I was more articulate, but I'm an idiot, just like I am today. You know what I mean? I thought
we all are. Dude.
I was like still talk like I went to private school or something, and it's like, no, that's not the case.
Yeah. I mean, look, anyone that thinks everything they say is important, almost assuredly, is not saying everything they say is important.
True.
So there's like maybe 3 or 4 people that they can claim that, and they never would.
Yeah.
So the rest of us are all just various stages of idiocy, depending on where we're at in that day of time. Thank you. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk about that, by the way. No, but it's interesting to see, even if it can be embarrassing, right? It's interesting to see like snapshots in time, like moments in time that are products of the surroundings and the context of what was happening that, again, lost for the most part, unless it was like in this corporate approved. I haven't looked. I'm sure there's a Strokes documentary. I don't give a shit about that though. I don't care. I mean, like that's like, I know enough about them. Fine. It's fine.
For sure. And we were lucky enough to have some like mainstream media support, like
right.
We were in some magazines and stuff, but even that stuff never made its way to the internet. So a lot of our like story is told through I don't know, Fader, Kerrang, whatever the fuck magazine, NME, but like none of that is out there. Luckily we saved a lot of it, and we've also like scanned and digitized a lot of that stuff as well, but like so like a giant portion of the story was like hard copies that just never translated to how people learn about shit now.
Or in some cases maybe they don't have a digital, they had a digital archive and now they don't, they just got rid of it because reasons. Which is like, what? Really? That's insane. But no, and I think that's important work. I mean, I still remember, way back when, Travis, we talked about like multiple times, like .coms were such a thing, and they wanted to like buy out Buddyhead, right? They wanted to like give you the big paycheck. And,
yeah, a few times, yeah. And we didn't think that was cool. We had no one around us to tell us to take the money.
We blew it a few times on multiple levels.
Yeah.
And I
was raised to selling out was lame. So
that's our generation, right? That's our generation, which is like, that's the worst thing you can do, because then like you're nothing now. And kids today, they don't even understand the concept of that.
I'm ready to sell out now.
Right.
Put it out there.
Hey, this offer, I have this paper here. Is this contract still good? Oh no.
I remember thinking like they offered us $9 million for Buddyhead, and I was like, well, if it's worth that now, it's only going to be worth more later.
Yeah. It's only going to increase in value. Yeah.
hasn't really turned out, but you know.
Well, but also there's something to be said for integrity, and the thing is, with the voice of the site and the people behind it, there was a fearlessness to it, right? And it's weird to think about now in this era of just, oh, you know, this celebrity said some stupid crap. Here they are on tape saying it, and there's a million Instagram reels or TikTok videos with people reacting to it. That wasn't there. So when you had things that would happen about, you know, whether people like the person in question or not, it was just like, hey, this is what this idiot is up to. Like, check this out. Like, there was an irreverency to it, and it was something that it was not there. It was not existent in popular culture, even within the alt circles, because people didn't want to lose access. So there was a fearlessness to it, and the idea being that, like, if you sell to like you know, Richard Branson or something, or whoever the hell it is, like, congratulations, that just shows that, you know, none of this stuff ever meant anything.
We actually did sign with Richard Branson, to be honest.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
Yeah,
I forgot about that. That's my bad.
Yeah. Two record deals with Richard Branson, but
and honestly, he's one of the better ones of the bunch. It's just literally the only one I can think of right there.
Yeah. We never got to go to the island or meet him, but no one ever strong-armed us over there. Because, I mean, even though it was funded by him, it was still, for all intents, an independent label. You know?
Right.
It was just independently financed by a fucking billionaire. But yeah.
Which I'm for, by the way. I'm totally for billionaires using money for that. And by the way, Conan at neutron-x.com.
Yeah. Send money.
Yeah, so maybe that's a bad example, but I'm just talking about, like, you know, the big corp, you know, like, look at like Time Warner or, like, you know, whatever else, like all these like mega corporations that are control everything. You know, like, what was it, like 5 corporations was a Fugazi song, and I think we're down to about 3, like, realistically.
I think that's why we're doing the site again. There's a lack of. It's the same reason I started in the beginning. It's like there's a lack of independent voices in you know, music, politics, art. Everything that we're into, there's just like there's no independent voices for any of it. You know, at least no one's saying that I want to hear. You know,
yeah. Something gets traction. You know, it's co-opted
immediately.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's just the way that it's set up at this point. You know, so and you know, I mean, everything from like a YouTube channel for someone who reviews movies or whatever the fuck. As soon as they catch traction, there's a manager. There's people on top of them kind of putting up guardrails, and it's just not something we were ever into, or, you know.
I mean, look at this show. I mean, this show is like operates in its own weird echelon, right? Yeah. But it's one of the bigger shows of whatever the hell this is now, and I still run it exactly the same. The only difference, I have a Patreon now, and it's $1 a month for advance access. That's it. I don't take any ads, no sponsors, nothing. Now, there's been many opportunities over the years, many, and also, to be clear, I am not a high roller. You know, I run on a pretty thin margin, but for me, that's important. I'm not saying anyone else needs to do that, but for me, that's important. Would the show be more popular if I did those things? Probably, almost certainly. If you have, like, a, you know, power of a corporation behind you, you're going to get in front of more people. But
let's get you on Rogan, dude.
No, but I like having the show having the freewheeling nature of, like, talking to fellas like yourself and us, like, you know, reminiscing about this time and talking about how you're actually doing something about it to bring it to people's attention that weren't there. And, you know, not to open up the bathrobe too much, like, Travis, when we, like, Friday, is that what we talked about this? Like we put it together with, like, no, you didn't have to go through an agent or, like, a booker or the freaking publicity department, any of that stuff.
Totally.
And that's, to me, that's what it should be.
Yeah, I mean, that's how independent voices get heard. We're just trying to get the message out there so we can make this movie that we want to make, you know, and just kind of, like, tell people about that time and also just, like, how we did things, you know, because it was just such a different, all of that I think is important, you know, for this younger generation.
It also just gives context to what we're doing now. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're
history.
Still operating in the art world on a regular basis, you know, in the underground outsider art world. So, you know,
but so much of our story is gone.
Totally. We encounter people all the time that, you know, new people, and it would just make it an easier conversation, you know, to kind of have context surrounding how we got here. You know what I mean?
Word. No, it's I would say it's vital personally. And like, I think about like in the feed for this podcast, the last episode that came out was Steve Moriarty, who played in the Gits with Mia Zapata. And he wrote a book about Mia Zapata that, again, because most people, if they know the Gits, who are fucking awesome, like all they know is like, oh, she was brutally murdered. But they don't know her as a person. One of the things I loved about that book is it showed like, no, she was a person. She was a person that like had a fully lived in, you know, existence and personality and touched a lot of people. And as an artist, weirdly, I made the analogy to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood by Tarantino, that you see Sharon Tate as more than just someone who got killed by the Manson family.
For sure.
You know what I mean? And I hate to like invoke not just one, but two awesome women's murders in here.
Yeah.
But it's context that people lack because, again, we're so obsessed with certain aspects of culture that oftentimes stories don't get told unless it's like Radiohead or something. And even then it's so like filtered down. Like, well, you're not going to get anything real about Radiohead.
Or just, yeah. And there's just so much information that only the sensational aspects really kind of, you know, cut through the din.
Yep.
So anytime you can kind of, you know, because, you know, even within the story we're trying to tell, there's tons of like sensational aspects of it, but that's not really the story here. You know, the story is like a bunch of kids kind of like figuring out how to carve out some kind of life for themselves in the underground music scene, you know?
Absolutely. I see your co-producers on the screen.
Yeah. Luxe Exterior.
That's awesome. So, all right. How are you addressing the Aaron North thing?
Who? Yeah, no.
Nice response. I like it.
No, not at all. You know, yeah, I mean, I think we're both open to letting, I mean, that's another part of this thing is like letting people be free about their sort of perspective all the time, and including that, like, we don't just want it to be a fucking, you know, hype fest. Like, we want to include people that like absolutely did not agree with what we were doing, or people that were there that were allies that see it completely differently than we did. It's not about pushing our specific narrative so much. I mean, yeah, of course, to a certain extent, it will be that just because we're making it. But I think it's like paramount to make sure that, like, if West Borland wants to talk about, you know, what fuckheads we were, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it'll be a lot like Please Kill Me is a big reference for us. Where
hell yeah.
Different storylines, and it's kind of up to you to kind of like
draw your own conclusion and
really happens. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it'll be a lot like that. Like, sure, we're directing it and we're kind of telling the story, but you know, I think everyone's going to get there. Everyone that wants to get their say will get their say. You know, hopefully, you know, some of the bigger bands that didn't like us, hopefully Aaron, you know, they're all going to have different versions of like what reality was or what went down, you know? So I think that'll be kind of the interesting thing too, is just like how many, I don't think anyone's like, you know, fair weathered about their opinion on Buddyhead if that was there, you know, either really invested in it or really don't like us. So, you know, I think that'll provide for some interesting stories.
So yeah, we're definitely, we've already reached out to mutual acquaintances, and, you know, I'm sure Aaron will be able to tell his version of things. And then we'll cut it out of the movie.
Yeah, make that a feature. Oh, if you want to see Aaron's stuff, you got to get at the $100 tier. Yeah. That's how you do it if you're a real capitalist, I think. Right?
Yeah.
You got to monetize everything. No, but it's cool because, I mean, like the Melvins documentary, I like it for a number of reasons, even though I got my ass cut out of it, is Joe Preston is in there. Oh, wait, no, Joe Preston's not there. I'm sorry. Matt Lukin is in there talking trash, and he's just talking trash, which is apparently just like his major pastime now, is drinking and talking trash. But like, didn't have to be in there, but it was sort of like, oh, it's, you know, it's kind of cool to see that because he was a big part of that band for a long time, and he has his view of how things went down, and, you know, they have their view, and it was honestly kind of cool to see that. And like, oh, I'm not saying that's going to be what happens, but everyone's got their own viewpoint. And I feel like, all right, there's two examples I'm going to give. One of which is in the Bee Gees documentary. right? Do you remember when they did like the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band thing?
Yeah.
I was like the whole time like, fuck, I can't wait to like hear how this debacle went. It's gonna be so awesome to like see that, like, you know, this whole thing that they think is gonna be so great and just shits the bed. Completely glossed over. Like they barely mention that it happened. It's over in like 10 seconds. I'm like, oh, come on.
I mean, the Stooges documentary is not far from that. You know,
yeah.
It's like completely sanitized. James Williamson gets maybe like 2 seconds airtime when like it's like, you know what, man? There's 3 records here.
It's a whole ladder career. It's not even Velvet Underground. Like Doug Yule, was he in that movie? Because I mean, I love Loaded. Loaded's a great record.
Yeah.
I mean, he's barely in that movie.
The end of the line.
And the other one I would say is the ZZ Top documentary, which I liked a lot, but like it goes up to Eliminator and then it goes and it's super in depth. Like, wow, I can't wait to see what they say about those like super mid Eliminator rip-off records. And they go, and they still play to this day, and then credits roll. And you're like, what are you kidding me?
Yeah, I mean, ours is very contained because it's going to end when the footage ends.
Right.
Which makes it easy.
There's a natural end to it.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. You know, it's just like whatever. Maybe there's some kind of wrap up to show who's still alive or whatever. But like besides that, it's a contained moment, so it makes it easy that way.
Right.
But no interest in making a fucking visual Wikipedia.
Right, exactly. Well, because that's the other end of it, where there's too much information. You're like, wow, I thought I was interested in this, and it turns out I'm not that interested. You know, and
yeah, and
just
it's never the
out with
interesting stuff. I mean, the Stooges movie, you know, not to like bash Jarmusch, you know, because I like some of his work, but like
love
the
Jarmusch.
Wikipedia entry.
Yeah, it's just like
it is
Stooges for beginners, and like. But like beginners don't care about the Stooges, so it's like, what are we doing here? It's like,
who's it for?
Like, I want to see, you know,
people vaguely aware of Iggy Pop. I guess I don't know.
Yeah. Working with James, I got better stories the first night we went to dinner. You know what I mean?
Right. That's right. No, we talked about that. I had James on this very show, which I was honored by because he doesn't do a lot of podcasts, right? And we talked about that, and like that that record's great. And like, did anybody pay attention to it? Not really, but like they should. He's he's like a guitar god. Like he's like, if you are into aggressive rock music of any kind, punk or otherwise, like that is like one of the all-time like Hall of Fame guys.
Totally. And it's just a fertile era, you know. I mean, there's just so much, you know, debauchery at that point that they just didn't even touch. I don't even think they said the word heroin in the movie.
I know. It was like, come on, really? we're not gonna
like, might as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, everyone's old and they don't want to glorify but you don't have to glorify those things to talk about it. You know, we did tons of drugs, and we're not here to like glorify it, and we're not here to demonize it either. It's a choice you make when you're young and you go.
You're like sanitizing the record. No, I mean, I'm listening to this podcast called Wind of Change now that the Dead Bob guys, they just were obsessed with this. And I was like, what is this? And basically, do you know the Scorpion song Wind of Change? I didn't. So it's okay.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, yeah. I know the Scorpions. I didn't know that song. Apparently, there's
the biggest song, dude.
I know. I sorry.
TV all day.
I for whatever reason it missed me, but apparently there's strong evidence it was a CIA psyop.
Yeah, right? It is anti-communist,
and that's what this podcast is about, and it's absolutely fascinating. But it's getting into other elements around it, right? This is me on a podcast explaining other podcasts, by the way. Great, and they're talking about that tour that Scorpions did with like Ozzy and Skid Row and whatnot, and then it was like ostensibly, oh yeah, it's in Russia, and they're promoting like, you know, don't do drugs, kids, like, and it's like, okay, but meanwhile, what actually was happening was all, you know, the antics that you would expect from that cast of characters, where they're just absolutely going hog,
snorting ants.
Yes, exactly, yeah, all of that stuff. And that's the kind of mindset I think of, just that blatant hypocrisy of like, okay, so you're not even going to mention that, like, you know, so-and-so nearly died of like an overdose. Okay, that's kind of, seems like that's a big moment that you're just this glossing over.
Totally. And, you know, within our little sphere, it's unavoidable, you know? I mean, we lost Sean McCabe from Ink and Dagger right near, like, it's almost the beginning of the movie when he passes, you know? You know, the band actually starts, like the Icarus Line starts out of a tragedy. You know, we lose our band member immediately, and it's a summer of death. You know, Joe from FYP dies a month later. Phil from Naked Aggression. So there's like it's unavoidable. Sometimes. So it's like you might as well just kind of like keep it real. I think.
I wonder if it's like a generational thing too. Like it seems like because all those folks are like a little bit older than all of us. That like maybe it's like, oh no, it's unseemly to. Which is like, okay, can you imagine like whatever the equivalent of that for like Zoomers would be? Like, like what? You would keep anything private? Why?
Yeah. Yeah.
The idea of like someone having a private life is like a outmoded concept now,
They all have like Lil Peep's last text message.
Oh, God damn it. Yeah. Woof. So tell me about, so you guys are doing Indiegogo for this. Again, I'm linking in the show notes so people can jump in on it. There's a bunch of different tiers and stuff. How did you figure all that stuff out for like what people might be interested in to be a part of this?
We figured out what was easy for us.
Yeah. We wanted to be able to deliver.
I didn't want to sell shit, and we just figured out what we had access to and what we were going to be,
right.
What we were going to be doing, and hope people were into it.
Yeah. And just make it so that we can deliver on our promises.
Yeah, that's
instead
it.
of like, putting a bunch of shit out there and then turning that into a job. The job is making the film, really.
Right.
So,
Yeah. We're not doing dancing monkey stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, we're mainly hoping people just want to help us make a film, and they can get a production credit from it. And we're going to be doing like some Zoom meetings with people. You can like talk to the filmmakers and
Nice.
some bonus shit, stuff like that. But
yeah. Be included.
yeah, it's basically like help us make this movie you want to see and the movie we've wanted to make for fucking way too long.
Well, I like that it's like in the spirit of the thing because you're not waiting for permission from someone. You're not waiting for like, oh, we got to wait till we get a green light from corporate or something along those. You're just doing it, and that's the grand tradition of. I was explaining DIY to someone the other day, and I wanted to die the entire time, by the way, but because I had to explain the concept. I was like, no, this is just like you create your own thing you want to see.
Yeah,
that's it. Like what do you like? It was a foreign concept, and it was a younger person, and I just again, I wanted to just fill my pockets full of stones and walk into the ocean, but whatever. And it occurs to me that like Buddyhead's a great DIY story, right? I mean, it's like not everyone's gonna reach such heights. Not everyone is, not everything is gonna connect with so many people, but it's a great example as a DIY story in the style of many other things around that time, most of which have been lost to history because it doesn't feed the corporate narrative.
For sure. But I mean, we were inspired by like other DIY stories like Discord and Black Flag and
Sure.
Touch and Go, Sun Ra, whatever. A lot of that kind of stuff is what kind of informed our moves, and like hopefully we pass that forward. But I mean, we know a lot of younger artists, at least in our city, that are like definitely DIY, man. They're definitely like doing things.
Yeah, we've also been running a DIY space.
Yeah.
So we've been having a lot of younger artists play and stuff.
Yeah, it's not dead. You know what I mean?
Oh, no, 100%, certainly not. As someone who actively tours, I can assure you it's not. I'm just saying that, like, as somebody thinking about it as a concept of an alternative mode of, like, existing, it's not in the zeitgeist as it was when you could just pick up a copy of, like, Book Your Own Fucking Life and, like, literally call some dude in South Dakota about playing their cave or something along those lines.
For sure.
But it also is, like, there's other methodologies of communication that are around. But I think ultimately it's good that you're telling the story. I think it's going to be awesome. I mean,
thanks.
Yeah, like I don't know, go give money to it. Any other than just giving money and spreading the words, or anything anyone can do to kind of help out.
Just share it with people that might give a fuck. That might want to help us out.
Or if you have footage or photos of the era,
we're looking for more of that too.
Yeah.
Flyers, footage, any of that kind of good stuff. I think it's a story that we have to tell, so we're getting to it.
I dig it. I think that I imagine it's going to be fantastic, and I'm always here for you to help out spread the word on that.
Thank you.
So,
appreciate it,
Thanks
dude.
for having us.
Yeah. Anything that we didn't get to about this that you wanna get on the record?
No, just give us your money.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
One more fork in the eye, let's one last swipe.
That is one thing that I feel like is still is consistent. When you think about folks that like were never.
And sign up for the email list on buddyhead.com so I can spam you.
There you go.
Doing some new content this week, some record reviews, taking it back to the old school.
Yeah.
But yeah, there'll be new stuff there, and that's kind of how to like follow along with our story that's going to be happening here with this movie.
I dig it. I dig it. Yeah, it's a pleasure, guys. I'm glad you're doing it. Keep me appraised if you want to come back and do like an update like later on or something.
Oh yeah.
You know how to get a hold of my ass.
Oh yeah. Thank you.
All right. Travis, Joe, take care, Aaron. There they go. Travis and Joe, Buddyhead. So excited for them to do this project. Very excited to see how it all turns out. So if you're, I put the link in the show notes. Go visit that link. Go check them out and give them some money. If you don't have any money, look, I get it. Spread the word, all that shit. Please, by all means. All right, so name of the show is Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. This show airs usually Thursdays, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific. Streaming live on YouTube and Twitch. Podcasted later everywhere. ProtonicReversal.com. Always free. No ads, no sponsors, no kidding. If you like the show and want to get episodes sooner, $1 a month at patreon.com/ProtonicReversal will gladly achieve that goal. Helps keep the lights on in this place. And gets you those sweet, sweet episodes a little bit sooner. Feel free to like, subscribe, do a review of the show. It seems cheeseballs can be, but it all helps people discover the show and beats back the algorithm, which is something that is important. The algorithm of which we all operate under. So thanks to everyone that does that. Bunch of good stuff coming up. I don't have it in front of me. It's still early. But always stay tuned. And thanks to folks that do. Shows on all forms of social media. Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, X, the everything site. Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. If you don't already like the show on those things, that also helps people find the show. Etc. Etc. Anything else? I got a pretty cool announcement, but it's not ready yet, so stay tuned. Also, Best of the Year episode coming up 2 weeks, where I go through my favorite records of the year. Stay tuned for that and the ensuing playlist coming. All that good stuff. Oh, Jamie Stillman of Earthquaker Devices and Harriet the Spy coming on. Jim Kimball, Laughing Hyenas, Ghost Forest, Jesus Lizard, DK3, Daniel DiPicciotto and Alexander Haka DiPicciotto coming up. Alexander, of course, from Einstein and Neubauten. There's a lot more coming up. Just stay tuned to it. Anyway, thanks for being part of the show. Thanks for listening. Stay safe out there.
Out on Route 128.
Check you later.
Dark and lonely. I got my radio on. Can you hear me now? 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 Be in the radio. welcome to my top 10. I'd like to thank our sponsors. But we haven't got a sponsor. Not if you were the last man on Earth. She was prepared to prove it. This one goes out to a special girl. But there is no special girl. It's the end of radio. The last announcer plays the last record. The last what? Leaves the transmitter. Circles the globe in search of a listener. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Is it really broadcasting if there's no one there to receive? It's the end of radio. As we come to the close of our broadcast day, got my radio on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? This is a test! If this had been a real emergency, hey, hey!